No Idols by Domo Genesis and The Alchemist. It came to streaming platforms on the 20th of April 2023. It is 12 songs, 36 minutes and 24 seconds long. You okay for me to round that down to 36 minutes?
I'm okay with it.
Perfect. It is a tape that originally released in 2012 by Odd Future member Domo Genesis, and they have just brought it to streaming platforms in a repress this past week, as we're recording it. And it was realistically one of those projects that I had wholly just intended to. You put Alchemist name to anything these days, I'm a listen, right? So it was one of those
Mm-hmm.
projects that I just intended to listen to. I'd probably love it. I'd probably bring it to end of year list, whatever. I'd probably mention it on the podcast, and Raheem would never listen to it, and he would just pretend that he had. When we got to the end of the year, when I say it for Two Stubborn Nigerian Award nominee, he'd be like, "Oh, I never actually got around to listening to that." Blah blah blah. But then I saw the slew of features that were on here, and I was like, "Oh no, we have to review this album for the podcast." So that is what we are going to do today. That was my reasoning for bringing it to the Black Table Talk. But before we get into that, if you are a fan of this type of thing, you can catch us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. We are there. You can keep up to date with all of our content by following our socials. You can follow us on Twitter at 2S Nigerians. We are on Instagram and TikTok at 2_stubborn_Nigerians. And we would really, really appreciate it, those of you who are here watching us on our YouTube channel, Two Stubborn Nigerians. If you would like this video, leave a comment, ring that bell for notifications, and of course, subscribe to the podcast. Raheem.
Yeah.
No Idols by Domo
No
Genesis
idols.
and The Alchemist. What are your overall thoughts? And then what themes were you picking out in your listen on this audiastic adventure?
This was a cool little project, man. It was a cool little project. It was one that you say you saw it and you knew you were gonna listen to it off rip. I had never seen it. I had never heard of it. Domo Genesis is an artist that I've listened to specifically before. I believe I've heard him on a couple things in the past.
Call me if
I
you get lost, bitch.
Right, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Um, but yeah, it wasn't something that was necessarily on my radar. So when you suggested it, especially coming off of a week of being ready to come in and review Ashanti, I was like, oh, okay, all right, cool. But it was
You
cool.
know I gotta keep you on your toes.
Bro, that one spun me through a loop. I was like, oh, okay. Is that Alchemist? I said, okay, all right. Let me know. No, it was a cool listen, man. It was a cool listen. It was a very easy listen. A very easy listen. Not too long, not too like it just sounds good. It sounds good. Throughout. The themes that I got from this album is really just Domo showing that he can sound good on different rap beats to me. He's talking his shit where he should be talking his shit in different places. And he does the wordplay thing here and there. But in terms of picking up on like a specific theme or storytelling throughout this album, I can't say I necessarily picked up on anything too intricately woven through. I'm not sure if that's the same for you on listening to this album, or if you managed to pick up anything where maybe it just went straight over my head. Um, but yeah, I think theme wise, I can't say that there was anything too crazy. Um, yeah.
Did you know that this album project came out in 2012?
No.
Until I just said it in the intro, right?
Nah, I literally didn't look at the year once.
Okay. So I mean it brought to Spotify or streaming platforms this past month, but originally came out in
Right.
2012 as a mixtape. For me, first of all, I completely resonate. It sounds really good, but I mean, it's Alchemist on the production, so what do we expect?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, at this stage, for me, he's like he's pushing. He's really pushing. He's already an all-time great, but he's pushing in terms of like really looking to challenge my top three all time. And that's saying something because my top three have been set for many, many years and no one has ever thought of breaking into that. But Alchemist's consistency over the last few years, and obviously this came out in 2012, but I'm counting it as the last few years because I'm only just hearing it, like, has just been pressing. But I think that's the gem of having Alchemist on 12 tracks. I will say, and I'm going to say this now before I forget, Alchemist and Tyler need to give me a project. Alchemist and Tyler need to give me a project. Now, I do think you're underselling Domo a bit, because I think one of the things that really came out for me is it's a very, I'd say, I get the sense of reflection. I feel like it's a very reflective project for him, and he's reflecting back on the journey that got them, Odd Future, and him specifically, to where they were in 2012. So I look at songs like All Alone, and actually where he's talking about the people that he left along the way, starting off his verse, which is just, I mean, that song is just one long ass verse. Him coming in just talking about I ain't got no fucking friends, trusted these niggas, you better off pissing in the wind, keeping open your circle so big you'll never win, and the lessons that they maybe learned from having such a big group and the difficulties that has and the people that they lost along the way. A similar sense of reflection is shown for me on The Feeling, where he's just talking about, again, their journey and getting to where they were, like talking about remembering when they were back chilling in Sid's crib to cabin trapping. Now they're hitting bad bitches, too far to even catch feelings. And the, like, again, the journey that they were on to get to the point. So it's very reflective. Like, there were little pieces that I learned about Domo Genesis as a rapper on this track, just from little bars that he was spitting. So, like, forgive my ignorance, you know, to those of you listening, because I think both of us have said at different points on this podcast, we were not fans of Tyler, the Creator, when he first came up, for real. And for me, I then also wasn't a fan of Odd Future when they first came up, for real. So it took there were just a couple times where I heard him say OF, that it then made me realize, oh shit, was this guy a part of Odd Future? And then I made the connection, and then all of the Tyler connections then made sense in my head. But I was picking up on that from, like, the different little bars that he was throwing in here and there on these little tracks. So I felt like the theme, anyway, for me, that really stood out, is just this sense of reflection, reflected on the journey that they had been on that got them to where they were at the time in 2012. And it still plays. Like, if you think about where, especially when you look at the array of features on this album, where all of those artists are now compared to where they were in 2012. I think we'll get into features in a bit, but, like, if you think about that, and a lot of them, not a lot of them, but like Domo, especially Tyler in his verse as well, talking about that journey, I think it really plays to, like, wow, like, it was almost like they were celebrating where they got to in 2012. They had no idea where they were going to end up being by 2022, 23. So that's really what I came up with in terms of themes. I don't know if that resonates a bit more with you now that I've said that, or if you still just...
I think it's a weird one. Well, it resonates more. Now you said that, it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from. My biggest thing, well, first of all, I didn't realize until you said it, as you said, that this was an album that came out or this was a project that came out in 2012. So shout out to them for everyone involved in this, because it doesn't sound dated at all.
Sounds like 2023.
It could easily have come out today and it will sound like, yeah, no, this fits. Which is, that in itself is unbelievable. That in itself is really unbelievable. That in itself is making me come in and possibly change the grade I was going to give this project off rip. Just that ability for it to still sound good after, what, 10 years, 11 years? Damn, that's impressive. That being said, the main, like, takeaway that I got from this album, even though I don't disagree with anything that you just said, the main thing that I left this album feeling was that for one of the first few times that I've listened to an album in this sort of construction, where it is producer and artist, I've walked away feeling like the producer is the real star of this.
He should be. He is the star.
Alchemist killed this project.
He is the star. He did kill this project. I couldn't agree more. Let's get to production now ahead of time then, since we're here. Just going the natural flow of things. Like, what did you think of his, like, beat creation and the way he curated this whole project.
This is the Alchemist that I love. I love when Alchemist does this. Man, he's up there. Like, it's hard for me to say that anyone could beat him. Because, man, like, when he goes for these bigger beats, when he goes for, especially like with the way that he created some of these beats, like a lot of the beats on this album sound like, how can I put it? I struggled to put it into words earlier. I'm gonna say what I said earlier, and this might sound really silly, but this is just how I felt, and it's the only way that I've managed to get into any type of words, which is it sounds like he's sampling live instrumentation that has been recorded, pre-recorded, and it's a weird one because it's like that's what sampling is anyway, but it's like when I listen to a lot of the beats on here, like for example, The Feeling, is like I get that feeling of, oh, you had a live band, but it still has that feeling of, oh, you sat there on your drum machine and created this, or you put this together. Like it feels constructed, even though it feels like there was live instrumentation involved. Is a weird one, but the way that everything is layered together and put together, and then the final product is put out there, is like, it's like abstract art down there, where it's like, man, this shouldn't make sense, and this should just be a bunch of mess, and I shouldn't care about what's on this canvas, but it's beautiful, it's stunning. Like, this is worth mills. This should be in the Louvre. Like, it's art. It is art, man, and he does that consistently throughout, and it just is unbelievable, man. It is unbelievable. I really, really enjoyed the production throughout this whole album. I think in terms of sequencing and everything, put together fantastically. Domo slides on everything, every beat that he hops onto. It's fantastic work production wise, man. Production work is fantastic work. I have no complaints on the production side whatsoever. I couldn't think of one even if I tried.
And it's so interesting because it's like, again, it's that ability that he has and the best tab, and we talk about on this podcast, to like fit to there's a lot of features on this, and each song fits a different feature. You know, like No Idols with Tyler sounds like something that could be on Cherry Bomb. Like the way Tyler's verse on that, the beat behind it feels so comfortable for it. It's like it was made specifically for a Tyler Creator project. Like Elimination Chamber with Earl Sweatshirt, with Vince Staples, with Action Bronson has the perfect like lo-fi, like simplistic monotone beat for those three artists to each of them rap and shine. Same with Power Ballad for Smoke DZA, Till Angels Come. Like that's the one that like really for me, when you said, as you said, like poignantly, testament to everyone involved on this project, because I heard that and that sounds like Freddie Gibbs rapping yesterday.
Yep.
And the beat for that sounds like something Freddie Gibbs would be rapping on in the past 2 years. And it just shows the connection that Alchemist has with the people he works with. And it's just so good to see that and how easily it flows and how much that supports the artist. And then, like you said, for Domo to then fit into each and every single one of those pockets that Alchemist curates for this project, it's sensational. It's so good. It's so well put together from them in that sense. And yeah, the sequencing, I thought it was sequenced great. I thought it closed out brilliantly with No Idols into Drugs Got Me Spiritual. Really, that 3-run stretch at the end of The Feeling, No Idols, and Drugs Got Me Spiritual really closes the project out really well, in the same vein that like the opening 3 bring you into it really well, I think. But we skipped over lyrics and lyricism. So anything that stood out for you that you want to talk about there?
Me and my bitch.
Just me and my bitch.
Hey, listen. It's always gonna work. It's always gonna work, man. And it's never not gonna work for me. Where you can make a song, and the second time I hear it, I say, "Oh, this isn't even a girl he's talking about." It's always gonna hit for me, man. Man, me and my bitch is crazy. I think it's one of those. I think it just it's not the most complex, lyrical like showing in terms of when artists do it, but it's always the most fun for me. It's always the most fun when an artist can like use different metaphors and use different like levels of storytelling to personify something that isn't a girl into a girl. And in this case, it is the marijuana,
Mary Jane,
the weed. Man, I think it just is fun. It's fun how he personifies it, man. I had a lot of fun listening to that song, listening to it, especially on. For me, I realized it wasn't a girl. It wasn't a girl I was talking about on what the third, fourth listen, because the first, and second, or whatever many times listen, I wasn't really like listening. It was more so just taking it in. But yeah, when I really listened and like caught it, it becomes one of those highlights for the album where it's just like, man, I didn't, how did I not catch that until this time? Like, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'll say throughout the whole album, he is very good at the whole wordplay and the wordplay type of music in terms of he'll have like quippy 1-2 liners here and there where it's like, ooh, nice, yeah, Domo, all right, cool, Domo, yeah, kill that. And that's some of my favorite. That's like, it's one of the reasons I love Absol the way I love Absol. It's one of the reasons why I still talk about Krypton Conan the way I talk about Krypton Conan. The artists who do the whole wordplay thing, and it doesn't have to be a whole scheme throughout a whole verse. Sometimes it's just cool. I'm gonna take these 2 lines. I'm gonna do something fun with it. And Domo does that a lot throughout the whole album. But Me and My Bitch is, for me, is a song from this album that just stands out as like, wow, yeah, Domo was in his bag.
Yep. I feel you. Me and My Bitch. For me, I got it on second listen, because it was like I was listening through and I heard where he says something along the lines of, let me get it up before I start making sure. But he's like, yeah, when I pass you around, please excuse the rudeness. And I was like, that's interesting. Why would you do that to your woman? And then when it got to the end of that first verse, when he says, I'm gonna spend it all on you, fuck the prices, and never ever leave you for that white bitch. I was like, well, the white bitch is cocaine, so he's not talking about cocaine, so it must be talking about weed. And then that makes sense why he was passing her around, and he didn't want her to think it was rude. Like, I gotta share you because we know it's puff pass. So I was like, oh, I see what you're doing there, Domo. That's cool. I liked it because it's like you say, he has those little bits of wordplay throughout and songs like that. But then again, for me, when I get a song like All Alone, where he's very easily telling the journey and telling his feelings about feeling lonely and alone, like, you get the storytelling aspect of lyricism as well, which I think is really good. And then the posse cuts help because it just breaks it up, and it's good to hear all these rappers like rap with one another. So hearing Elimination Chamber go from Domo, then Earl comes in and raps, and it pisses me off more and more whenever I hear Earl Sweatshirt rap over Alchemist beats, because I know that there's an Earl Sweatshirt Alchemist Vince Staples album that's just sat in the vaults because those niggas are too lazy smoking weed. But then to go from Earl into Vince, and Vince coming in talking about, can't even walk up in the church without these niggas trying to testify, I live to die better than to live a lie. I'm like, yeah. Like, when he's talking about I rap better than most of these rap veterans, I was like, I was ready to come back in here and say Vince might have overtaken Tyler again, until I realized that this shit came out in 2012. But again, to think that Vince was rapping like this back in 2012, it's still crazy. And then Action Bronson sounding like Action Bronson. It's always fun. Action Bronson talking about I roll a joint like Matumbo arm. Like, what? What?
Yeah. But Action Bronson it's fun to listen to.
He's fun to listen to. He's fun to listen to. And when he really gets into it, he can really fucking rap too. It's very funny. But yeah, no, I did love the lyricism. I thought it was really good all the way through. I think Domo, as this being my first Domo Genesis project that I listened to, obviously I've had him on different songs here and there throughout his career, but this being the first project of his I listened to, is a really good showing of like what he is and can be as a rapper. I felt like, anyway. Let's talk about the features. because as I mentioned, there are a lot of features on this album to give the audience at home the lowdown. So on this album, we have Action Bronson twice, we have Earl Sweatshirt, we have Vince Staples, we have Smoke DZA, we have Freddie Gibbs, we have Prodigy, the late great Prodigy from Mobb Deep. We have Action Bronson. I already said that. We have the late great Prodigy from Mobb Deep. We have Space Ghost Perp. We have Tyler the Creator, and we have Remy Banks. What do you think of the features, good sir?
Everyone came to play.
Everyone came to play.
Everyone came to play. I think for me, in terms of the features that stood out the most, Earl Sweatshirt spins me, man, because I never know with him. I never know. Sometimes I listen to his music, I'm like, I can't hear this. This doesn't sound good to me. And then other times I hear him and I'm like, oh, he's the greatest rapper that ever lived. That's just what it is here. Like, he's so talented, but it's so inconsistent for me. But here he shines. He shines. Our Sweatshirt shines, man. Smoke DZA shines. Freddie Gibbs, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And it's spinning me that this came out in 2012.
It sounds like it came out yesterday for Freddie Gibbs.
Freddie Gibbs genuinely sounds how he sounded on his last album.
Like it sounds like yesterday when you talk about Gangsta Gibbs, like the flow he goes into. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like Gibbs from like last week.
Yes, it's so weird. It's so trippy. Like, man. But yeah, the features came to play. Tyler Creator, it makes so much more sense now that this came out in 2012, because when I first heard Tyler the Creator rapping on this, I was like, oh, okay. He went back to like an older type of style. Like, this sounds like old Tyler, but cool. I see where he's going with this. It was interesting to hear that it was 2012 Tyler. Makes so much more sense. So much more sense, because it reminds me of Yonkers Tyler. That is like, it reminds me of the Tyler that I'd hear but wasn't actually listening to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's cool just listening to it. All the features came to play, man. Every single feature came to play. No feature sounded out of place. No feature sounded like I don't know why they're there. And again, that speaks to the greatness of Alchemist on this album, man. Alchemist curated this damn near perfectly, man. Like, he did such a good job for 36 minutes of music. For this to sound as complete and just great as it does, I can't say enough good things.
And it's with so many different styles to tailor to. Like,
yeah,
it's with so many different styles to tailor to that it's like, it is impressive to do this.
Like,
it really is. So I really can't add too much to what you'd already said. I think every feature really came to play. Freddie probably stands out the most for me as a single feature. Tyler too, but that's also because I just love the beat on No Idols and what's going on in the background and how Alchemist freaked that. Like, so that I like that aspect of it. But Freddie probably stands out as a singular feature. But they all came to play, and it's again a testament to Domo Genesis as well, how much he still stands out in the face of like all of these niggas are stars. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, to us on this podcast, Tyler's a star, Vince is a star, Freddie's a star. You know what I mean? So it's like, for you to still shine out in front of that, it speaks volumes. And to your point about Earl Sweatshirt, that's the problem with Earl Sweatshirt, man. He's the AD of rap. Because when he's on, you'll be there like, man, we need Earl. But then when he's off, it's like, bro, go away. We don't want to see you.
Yeah, for real.
But when he's on, it's like, yo,
man,
there's not a better rapper. Like,
man. Fam, he'll have one feature. I'm like, I need to download that next album. I download the next album, but I don't need this on my phone
at all. Like, it's because he has no love for the game. He just loves weed. I'm telling you, this is the problem. The problem.
Oh man. What other categories do we do?
Let's talk to me about his songs. Let's go top 3 in reverse.
Top 3 in reverse order. I am going Prophecy number 3. Great intro. Fantastic intro. Really had me locked in for the whole album, because I didn't really know what to expect from this, especially like just viewing the album cover, by the way, which we didn't speak about, but the XP hills, the Windows XP hills, and then the little covers over all the faces. Yeah, you got me. You got me interested. Prophecy had me hooked. I was in for the whole project at that point. Number two, no, number three. So number two, I have Till the Angels Come, featuring Freddie Gibbs. Similar to what you said, man. Freddie Gibbs, like, yeah, he brought it, man. He brought it. And Prodigy, yeah. It's a great song. It could have been Me and My Bitch, but I'm gonna go with Till the Angels Come, because at number one, I'm going with The Feeling. The Feeling, for me, is the best sounding song on this album, man. Just what the Alchemist does with this, with the way that he put this beat together, the cinematic nature of the song, crazy. And then what Domo does to slide on top of it, picks a perfect cadence of flow on this, man. Like, it's the best sounding song to me, in my opinion, on this whole project.
No matter that three, that's a good top three. It's a good project. You couldn't really go wrong with a lot. For me, at three, I got Elimination Chamber. I love the posse cut. I was literally just at a wrestling event this past week. So when you give me the wrestling interlude into the Elimination Chamber, which is a stipulation match, you got me hooked, line and sinker. And Vince Earl and Action do their thing on that alongside Domo, of course. Number two, exact same. I got Till the Angels Come. Really good rapping from all three men on this project, and the production fits them to a T, and what the shit that they needed to get off there, which I really liked. And then number one for me, All Alone. All Alone really hooked me in terms of, like I said, just giving me a story and giving me an insight into the psyche of what Domo was going through. And really what I thought he was going through present day, but what he must have been feeling back in 2012. But probably a lot of the concepts that he was talking about would still relate to present day as well. I could imagine. So I thought this was a really good showing. So at one, I got All Alone. At two, I got Till the Angels Come. And three, I've got Elimination Chamber. Shall we take it to the scales?
We absolutely can. Once I get the scales up, that is. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. Okay. The Two Stubborn Nigerians album rankings go as such. I hate I ever listened to this. Won't be listened to again. Whole lot of mid. Might stay in rotation for about a week. Pretty damn good. Serious project. And then either me and or Paul can give it our 50% stamp of approval. In the case that we both give it our 50% stamp of approval, the album will become Two Stubborn Nigerian approved. Paul, what ranking are you giving this album?
I'm pretty damn good. I really like this project. I think it's a good project. I think the rapping is high quality. I think the production is exemplary. It probably won't have a replay value with myself, and in a period where I am so rap heavy, that's a bit of a surprise. But I don't really say that to downgrade the project, just giving a holistic view. But I do like this project, so I'm going pretty damn good.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm going pretty damn good as well. I think it's an album that when you suggested it, I thought, okay, cool. We'll review it and then I'll get back to my regularly scheduled programming. I think it's been good enough to the point where it might like mess up my rotations a bit and actually be an album that just lives with me for a bit longer, because I've really enjoyed my time listening to it. It's a surprise for me. It's a real surprise to me. It's one of the albums that I've listened to this year that just is one of the better sounding projects that I've listened to this year, should I say. And I've been enjoying it, and I don't see myself stopping that short anytime soon. So I'm going to go pretty damn good for sure. But yeah, shout out to The Alchemist and to Domo Genesis for a great project in total. That was No Idols. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed that, please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on notification bell, leave a comment and share with your friends. If you think that they will enjoy this type of content. And please, if you have any albums that you want us to get to or to review, because either you hate them, you love them, or you just want to know what our thoughts on them are in general, then please leave them in a comment below, and we will endeavor to get to the ones that we think we should get to.